It took us quite a while, but we finally got our hands on the Alienware M15R2. There are already loads of reviews out there, and if you watch them all, there seems to be one issue that everyone has agreed on. The M15R2 runs hot, really hot. But it's been some time since then. Has Alienware fixed it? Short answer, yes and no. But before we get into that, let's talk about some of the good things. The first being the design. The M15R2 is basically a slimmed down version of the Area 51M. Our model right here is the black version, which Alienware affectionately calls the dark side of the moon. It's also a matte finish all around, which does help against fingerprint and oil stains. You of course get full RGB with Alienware, with the most prominent being the elongated halo ring that runs around the back of the laptop. Even though as the user, we can't really see it, but I still really like it. Overall, it's a really nice and refreshing design that I felt looks much better compared to the first generation and definitely way better compared to the thicker ones. Here in Singapore, you do get a few options for the display. Our model is equipped with a Full HD 1920 by 1080 IPS panel, which does support 144Hz. One additional feature on our model is Tobii eye tracking, which is located right on the hinge. The display itself is vibrant and is basically great for consuming entertainment or playing games. If you're more on the creative side, like editing photos or videos, it does only cover 100% sRGB, but still not too bad. There is a webcam up top, but it does not support Windows Hello, which I find unfortunate considering the price of this machine. The keyboard is really nice. It's got a good amount of key travel and it feels nice to the touch. You'll definitely enjoy it, be it gaming or just general typing. But the trackpad on the other hand, it's a bit of a letdown. Firstly, I feel that it can still be slightly larger, but my main gripe with it is the gestures. It doesn't seem to recognize 2 or 3 fingers that well. Speakers are located on the sides and they sound decent. I do find the thicker Alienware models sound better as far as I can remember, but then again, there's more thickness to play with. For I/O, you get quite a good amount. 2 USB 3.1 on the right side with another one on the left, accompanied by the headphone mic combo jack and surprisingly enough, an RJ45 Ethernet port. But most of it is around the back, where you get HDMI 2.0, Mini DisplayPort 1.4, Thunderbolt 3 as well as the Alienware graphics amplifier. Specs-wise, you get quite a lot of options. In fact, you can spec it up to an Intel Core i9 along with an RTX 2080 Max-Q. Our configuration right here isn't the highest, but I think it's the one that most of you will look at. We are running an Intel Core i7-9750H, an RTX 2070 Max-Q, 16GB of RAM and a 512GB NVMe SSD. We now come to performance. We'll first show you the benchmarks, then we'll get technical after that. And that's the reason why I said it's a yes and a no. So I've seen the numbers, now we'll explain. So there are many different profiles that you can choose from in the Alienware Command Center. For all the benchmarks that we just showed, we use the high performance profile for power and performance for the thermals. But now we are going to focus on just one game, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. To keep things standard and fair, we are using the in-game benchmark, and we are going to show you the differences between choosing different profiles using the Alienware Command Center. So there's quite a bit of data, but here's a quick rundown. You'll find that on the quiet and cool thermal profile setting, the temperatures and frame rates are essentially within margin of error, even between the 2 performance profiles. On these 2 settings, you'll find that the CPU stays at its base clock of 2.6 GHz, thus giving very reasonable temperatures of around 80 degrees Celsius, plus and minus. To that point, even the fan noise is almost the same, which is pretty quiet. Frame rates, however, are the least of all of them. Next, we move on to the balanced thermal profile. This is where we feel the M15R2 performs the best. It is essentially the middle ground, and the CPU does boost a little, reaching around 3 GHz, while still having reasonable temperatures of around 84 degrees Celsius. The GPU clocks are also just a tad higher. The fan noise, on the other hand, is much more audible and definitely noticeable if you're playing without headphones, but still within reason. Next is the performance thermal profile. This is where the M15R2 starts to fall short. On either power profiles, the CPU will ramp up and hit 4 GHz at the start, maintaining those clocks at 100 degrees Celsius for a good minute before ramping back down to the base clock of 2.6 GHz for another minute or so in order for the temperatures to drop. It then goes back up and holds steady at about 3.2 GHz at temperatures nearing 90 degrees Celsius or more. Despite that, you'll find that the frame rates aren't that much different compared to the balanced profile. Lastly is the full speed thermal profile, and this is just a letdown. The CPU will hit 4 GHz in the first minute and stay at 100 degrees Celsius before starting to ramp down as the benchmark goes on, which brings the temperatures down. But the moment the temperatures get lower for a while, the system ramps up again to hit 4 GHz and 100 degrees Celsius yet again. This pattern keeps repeating despite the fans running at full blast. Yes, you do get an increase in frames, but at the cost of immense noise and your CPU running at 100 degrees Celsius half the time. With that said, we are not going to touch the overclock profile. Just don't. So that's all the profiles. For gaming, it's still technically not too bad as long as you choose the right profile to use. In our opinion, we suggest using the balanced profile for both power and fan management. Moving on to creative applications on the other hand, it's a whole different story. As you can tell from the scores on our test project renders in DaVinci Resolve, this very Alienware got beaten in render times compared to the Razer Blade 15 which we reviewed previously, sporting the very same Intel Core i7 and GPU for that matter. This is because the system thermal throttled, managing to hit above 3.5 GHz for only the first couple of minutes at 100 degrees Celsius, before the system finally wants to lower temperatures and reduce the clock speeds back to the 2.6 GHz base, which does reduce temperatures but inadvertently affected the render speed. It does clock back after a while, hitting 100 degrees Celsius again, only to come back down right after, so there's this constant fluctuation in clock speeds. This is true for all the profiles except the quiet and cool thermal profile setting, which reduces the clock speed of the CPU to the base 2.6 GHz or even lower. So don't even use that. With all that, our answer as mentioned is a yes and a no. If you are looking at getting the Alienware M15R2 or even the M17R2, we would say only if you just want to game, but remember to choose the proper profile. Now, if you're looking to get this laptop for creative work, we think no, it's just not suited. The way the Alienware handles the temperatures versus clock speed is just out of whack. I would rather it run at a constant 3 GHz and maintain a temperature of around 90 degrees Celsius or so, than have it ramp up and down constantly, affecting my render speeds. Even so, if you like the Alienware aesthetic and you are doing more creative work, I suggest only get it if you go for the 4K OLED display, which does cover DCI-P3. And if you know how to undervolt the CPU and do repasting and all that, it will make it run much more stable and cooler. So this has been a slightly longer video. If you watched till the end, thanks for your support. If you have any questions, drop us a comment down below, subscribe to us if you haven't, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Till the next one, see ya!